If you're trying to get some documentaries, let me know. Here's a good doc of readings about the DPRK specifically. Let's check this out. Appreciate you for sending this. Must read books for understanding Korea. Patriots, Traitors, and Empires. The story of Korea's struggle for freedom. Is this The Korean War by Hugh Dean? That's one of the main books I would recommend for sure. Oh, this is like an infographic. Interesting. Facts you need to know
Yeah,
about Korea.
boy.
We killed off 20% of the population. U.S. Air Force General Curtis LeMay, head of the Strategic Air Command during the Korean War. U.S. planes dropped 635,000 tons in bombs and 32,000 tons of napalm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
boy.
boy. North Korean fighters and allies in between 400,000 and 750,000 dead and missing. Korean civilian casualties, 2.5 million. 1.55 million from the DPRK. 75% of Pyongyang was destroyed. Historians say biowarfare was used against communist forces. Terrible. And it's definitely true. And U.S. bombers with nuclear arms were deployed, which is just insane. And another, I don't remember if it was Curtis LeMay himself or one of the other U.S. Air Force higher-ups at the time, but they said they bombed every building in Korea over 2 stories tall. So there was nothing left to bomb. And literally, American pilots were complaining. They were saying there's literally nothing left to bomb. But, the North wouldn't give up. They continued to fight for independence. They had just won their freedom from colonialism. And now they're facing this horrific aggression from the United States. And even after losing 20% of their population and having their country divided in half and having every building over 2 stories tall bombed into the
Yeah,
dust. Oh, thank
boy.
you for the subscriptions. I see 2 subscriptions in the chat. Thank you very, very much. Oh, hype train incoming. Sweet. So the North wasn't about to just give up. They had just overthrown the Japanese colonizers. And basically the U.S. just had to give up. They had to divert their attention elsewhere because they were spending so much
Yeah,
money
boy.
bombing Korea and, basically uh, bombed everything they could and killed everyone they could. And they realized these people still weren't going to give up. So they just put, the most stringent economic sanctions in history on them, which, for those who don't know, other than Cuba, the U.S. sanctions, economic sanctions on North Korea are the most stringent of any sanction in human history, to try and stop this country from getting food, from trading with the rest of the world, from developing. And the worst of it actually came in the 90s when there were a series of floods in the U.S. In Korea, that destroyed a lot of their agriculture that they had built up since the war in the 50s. And Loyal Citizens of Pyongyang, the documentary we've been talking about, talks about this a lot. But the CIA would go to the border of Korea and China, which is not a super heavily regulated border. So a lot of Koreans were obviously going into China at the time to flee the famine. And the CIA sent agents to sit at the border, and they would pay Koreans a sack of rice if they would bring back telephone lines, or if they would bring back the tail of a cow. With the idea being trying to starve these people out, trying to, on top of enforcing these economic sanctions that prevent them from trading with the rest of the world, also destroy their electricity and their sources of power, by sabotaging the electricity lines, or sabotage their agriculture by having people kill cows in exchange for food. In exchange for food. So the U.S. is starving these people and then offering them food if they'll sabotage their own country. The most horrific stuff you can imagine. And we look at them and we think they're crazy and we
Yeah,
think they're evil and we think
boy.
they're authoritarian. It's like, then what are we? Right? Then what the hell do you call the U.S. and what we've done to Korea?